Commander Sarah Chun stared at the massive holographic display floating above the bridge of the UES Prometheus, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, but her attention was fixed on a single, pulsing red that had appeared 3 days ago at the edge of their sensor range. Status report, Lieutenant Morrison. She called to her communications officer, a young man whose face had grown increasingly pale since the anomaly first appeared. Ma'am, the signal is definitely artificial. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously, using mathematical sequences that suggest high intelligence. The pattern it's almost like a warning beacon, but the structure is unlike anything in our databases. Chen nodded grimly. The Prometheus had been conducting a routine survey mission in the Kepler 442 system when they detected the transmission. What had started as scientific curiosity had quickly evolved into something far more serious. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a declaration. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenolinguistics specialist, approached the command chair. Her tablet displayed complex waveform patterns and mathematical translations. Commander, I made some progress decoding the transmission. The core message is remarkably simple, but the implications are terrifying. Show me. Vasquez activated her tablet's projection system. Alien symbols flowed across the hologram, accompanied by their rough translations. The message essentially says, this sector is claimed. Departure required. Non-compliance results in termination. It repeats every 47 minutes and 13 seconds. The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Chun felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity had been exploring space for over 2 centuries, establishing colonies on dozens of worlds, but they had never encountered intelligent alien life. Now, their first contact wasn't a peaceful exchange of knowledge. It was an eviction notice. Any indication of the source? Chen asked. That's the disturbing part, Vasquez replied. The signal is coming from a point approximately 12 light-years from Earth, directly in the path of our expansion corridor. Based on the transmission strength and dispersion pattern, whatever is sending this has technology far in advance of ours. Lieutenant Morrison's console chimed urgently. Commander, I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. Something big is moving out there. Before Chen could respond, the main view screen erupted with light. Where empty space had existed moments before, a colossal structure materialized. The alien vessel, if it could even be called that, defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. It appeared to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. The ship dwarfed the Prometheus, stretching nearly 10 kilometers in length. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Chen barked. The bridge bathed in crimson light as alarms sounded throughout the ship. Ma'am, they're scanning us, reported Chief Science Officer Commander Williams. Energy patterns unlike anything in our records. It's as if they're taking us apart molecule by molecule and putting us back together in their computers. The alien vessel hung motionless in space, its surface pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Then, without warning, it spoke. The voice that filled the bridge wasn't transmitted through their communication systems. It simply existed in their minds, speaking in perfect English despite its obviously non-human origin. Primitive beings of the third planet. You have entered claimed territory. Your presence violates the hegemony's territorial edicts. Immediate withdrawal is required. Chun stood, straightening her uniform. If this was humanity's first contact with alien intelligence, she would not show fear. This is Commander Sarah Chun of the United Earth ship Prometheus. We are peaceful explorers seeking knowledge and understanding. We mean no harm and claim no territory. A sound that might have been laughter echoed in their minds. Primitive. Your species spreads across systems like a disease, consuming resources and establishing settlements. The hegemony has observed your expansion for several of your decades. This ends now. We have established colonies throughout this region, Chen replied firmly. Innocent people live on those worlds. They have the right to exist. Rights are a concept for civilized species. You're a bacteria claiming rights to a petri dish. Your settlements will be sterilized. Your expansion will cease. This is not negotiation. This is notification. The organic ship began to glow more intensely. Commander Williams frantically worked at his station. Energy buildup detected. Whatever they're preparing, it's generating power readings that are off the charts. Chen's mind raced. Humanity's colonies in this region housed over 50 million people. New Geneva, Kepler Station, the agricultural domes of Tau Ceti Prime. All will be defenseless against technology this advanced. But they had one advantage their alien visitors had overlooked. Humans were stubborn. Transmission to all Federation vessels and colonies, she ordered. Priority Alpha. Broadcast on all channels, all frequencies. Send everything we've recorded about this encounter. Commander, what are you doing? Vasquez asked, warning everyone, and proving a point. Chen activated the ship's external communication array. Alien vessel, you call us primitive, but you've made a critical error. The voice in their heads carried a note of curiosity. Explain this error, bacteria. You assumed we were alone. Chen gestured to Morrison, who activated a previously prepared transmission. Across local space, every human settlement, ship, and station received the Prometheus's data package. More importantly, the transmission included something the aliens hadn't anticipated, a complete record of the encounter, including detailed scans of the alien vessel. By threatening us, you've given humanity our greatest gift, a common enemy. Every human world, every ship, every laboratory will now be working toward a single goal, stopping you. The bioluminescent patterns on the alien ship flickered with what might have been confusion. Irrelevant. Your technology is inferior. Resistance is futile. Maybe. But you're about to learn something about humanity that every tyrant in our history discovered too late. Chen smiled grimly. We're really good at killing things that threaten us. The alien ship's weapons began to charge, energy coursing along its organic hull like veins of molten metal. But as the attack began, something unexpected happened. Throughout human space, the response was immediate. Admiral Harrison aboard the UES Enterprise received the transmission and immediately ordered the fleet to converge on the threat. Dr. Marcus Webb at the Titan Research Station began analyzing the alien technology scans, looking for weaknesses. On New Geneva, Colonial Governor Patricia Santos started evacuating civilians while organizing the planetary defense grid. Most significantly, at the secret research facility hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Dr. James Park stared at the alien vessel's energy signatures and smiled. Project Excalibur had been theoretical until now. Humanity's attempt to weaponize quantum entanglement on a massive scale. The alien threat had just provided the justification and target the project needed. You know what the really interesting thing about humans is? Chun continued, watching as the alien ship's weapons reached full charge. We never fight, just one war at a time. We're already planning the next one. The alien ship fired. The beam that struck the Prometheus wasn't like any weapon humanity had developed. Instead of explosive force or kinetic impact, it was pure dissolution. Matter simply ceasing to exist where the energy touched it. The ship's forward sections vanished in perfect geometric shapes, as if cut by an impossibly precise knife. But Chen had bought enough time. The transmission was complete, and 43 human colonies now knew exactly what they were facing. As the Prometheus died around her, Chen activated the ship's final protocol. The quantum beacon in the ship's core sent one last message across the galaxy. Not to human colonies, but to Earth itself, where the United Nations Space Command was already mobilizing humanity's greatest weapon. Not technology, not superior firepower. Spite. The alien ship completed its destruction of the Prometheus and began moving toward the nearest human colony. Its occupants were confident in their superiority, certain that these bacteria would quickly surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They had no idea what they had just started. On New Geneva, Colonial Defense Chief Maria Santos watched the alien ship approach through her command center's view screen. The settlement housed 12 million people, most of them families who had traveled across the galaxy seeking a better life. Evacuation status? She asked her aide. 60% complete. We need more time. Santos nodded grimly. Then we'll buy it. She activated the planetary defense grid, a network of orbital platforms that had been designed to defend against pirates and asteroids, not alien invasions. The weapons were primitive compared to what they now faced, but they were all she had. All stations, this is command. Target the approaching vessel and prepare to fire. We may not win, but we'll make them remember they were in a fight. The alien ship, now identified as a hegemony pacification vessel, entered New Geneva's orbital space. Its weapons began charging for another dissolution beam. What it didn't expect was for the humans to attack first. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and kinetic bombardment platforms opened fire simultaneously. The alien ship's shields absorbed most of the damage, but several shots penetrated, scarring its organic hull. For the first time in the encounter, the alien voice carried a note of surprise. Resistance is futile. Surrender and face quick termination. Santos smiled as she watched her gunners pour everything they had into the alien vessel. This is Maria Santos, speaking for the 12 million humans on New Geneva. Message received. Response, no. The alien ship destroyed the defense platforms systematically, but not before they had transmitted detailed battle data to every human military installation within 50 light-years. Each defensive action, each weapon impact, each shield fluctuation was recorded and analyzed. Humanity was learning. As New Geneva's defenses fell, something unprecedented happened. The alien ship, instead of immediately destroying the colony, paused. Its occupants were trying to understand why these primitive beings continued to resist when defeat was inevitable. They were about to learn the most dangerous thing about humanity. When cornered, humans became unpredictable. In the asteroid belt, Dr. Park watched the battle feeds with growing excitement. The alien ship's energy signature was exactly what Project Excalibur needed. He activated the quantum entanglement array and began targeting protocols. On Tau Ceti Prime, Admiral Harrison's fleet was already moving at maximum warp toward New Geneva. 27 ships carrying humanity's most advanced weapons and 10,000 crew members who had just learned that their species was no longer alone in the universe. And on Earth, in the deepest bunkers beneath the UN headquarters, the Secretary-General activated protocols that had existed only in theory since humanity first reached the stars. The hegemony had made their first mistake by underestimating human determination. They were about to make their second by giving humanity time to get angry. The alien ship, finally, fired on New Geneva's surface, but instead of total annihilation, it targeted military installations first. This wasn't mercy, it was standard hegemony procedure for dealing with resistant species. Demonstrate overwhelming power, then offer a chance to surrender. They had no idea that humans viewed surrender as the beginning of resistance, not the end. The Awakening Admiral Rebecca Harrison stood in the command center of the UES Enterprise, humanity's flagship, as her fleet approached the New Geneva system. 27 ships, everything from massive battlecruisers to nimble destroyers, formed a perfect attack formation around her command vessel. The sight should have filled her with confidence, but the tactical displays told a different story. Admiral, we're receiving the final transmissions from New Geneva, reported Commander Torres, her intelligence officer. The colonial defense grid has been eliminated. The alien vessel is beginning bombardment of the main population centers. Harrison's jaw tightened. 12 million people were dying while she watched from 50 million kilometers away. Her ships were still 6 hours from engagement range, and every minute that passed meant more innocent lives lost. What's our status on the alien vessel? She asked. Analysis of the battle data is disturbing, ma'am. Their shields absorbed 97% of New Geneva's firepower without apparent strain. Weapon impacts that did penetrate caused minimal damage and seemed to self-repair within minutes. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, the fleet's tactical specialist, brought up a three-dimensional hologram of the alien ship. Based on the data from the Prometheus and New Geneva, we're looking at technology that's centuries beyond ours. Maybe millennia. The bridge fell silent. These were humanity's best and brightest, officers who had spent their careers preparing for exactly this moment. But Preparation meant nothing when faced with such overwhelming technological superiority. "Admiral," came a voice from the communications console. "Incoming transmission from Earth. Secretary General Morrison, Priority Omega." Harrison straightened. Priority Omega meant only one thing. Earth was implementing the most classified protocols in human history. On screen, the weathered face of UN Secretary General David Morrison appeared on the main display. Behind him, Harrison could see the chaos of the crisis center beneath the UN building. "Admiral Harrison, you're authorized to implement Protocol 7. Harrison felt her blood run cold. Protocol 7 was theoretical, a last resort plan that had never been tested because the implications were too dangerous to contemplate. "Sir, are you certain? The risks are acceptable compared to extinction. Dr. Park confirms that Project Excalibur is operational. You have full authorization to coordinate with all human assets in the region. Stop these invaders, Rebecca. Whatever it takes." The transmission ended, leaving Harrison staring at a blank screen. Protocol 7 meant that every rule, every law, every ethical constraint that governed human warfare was now suspended. It meant that humanity was officially at war for its survival. "Transmit orders to all ships," she commanded. "Full combat readiness. Authorization 7-7 Alpha. All ships are to implement enhanced tactical protocols immediately." Throughout the fleet, her order triggered a transformation. Ships that had been designed for exploration and defense suddenly became something else entirely. Hidden weapons systems activated. Experimental technologies that had never been tested in combat came online. Most significantly, the moral restraints that had governed human warfare for 2 centuries were officially lifted. Humanity was about to show the galaxy why it had conquered every predator on its homeworld. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Dr. James Park watched his life's work come to fruition. Project Excalibur had been born from humanity's attempts to understand quantum entanglement on a cosmic scale. The theory was simple. If particles could be quantum entangled across vast distances, then it should be possible to entangle larger objects. Like starships, quantum field generators are online, reported his assistant, Dr. Lisa Chong. "We're locked onto the alien vessel's quantum signature." Park smiled grimly. The alien ship had made a critical error by scanning the Prometheus so thoroughly. In mapping every molecule of the human vessel, they had inadvertently created a quantum connection that could be exploited. "Begin entanglement protocol," Park ordered. "Target the alien vessel's power core." Across the solar system, massive quantum field generators hidden throughout the asteroid belt began to resonate in perfect harmony. The alien ship, busy destroying New Geneva's surface installations, was completely unaware that human scientists had just locked onto its quantum signature and were preparing to do something that violated every known law of physics. They were going to entangle the alien ship's power core with a star. On the surface of New Geneva, Colonial Defense Chief Maria Santos crouched in the ruins of her command bunker. The alien ship's dissolution beams had carved perfect geometric shapes out of the planet's major cities, but they had also revealed something unexpected about human psychology. Instead of surrendering, the colonists had begun fighting back with whatever they could find. "Ma'am, resistance cells are reporting successful strikes against alien scout drones," reported Sergeant Mills, her communications specialist. "The aliens are deploying ground forces to investigate the anomalies." Santos looked at the tactical display with amazement. Across the planet's surface, ordinary civilians, farmers, teachers, shop owners, were building improvised weapons and attacking alien technology with nothing but determination and fury. "What kind of damage are we talking about?" she asked. "Minimal, in terms of actual destruction. But the aliens seem confused. Their ground forces keep stopping to analyze human behavior patterns. It's like they can't understand why we're still fighting." Santos nodded. The aliens had made the same mistake that every invader in human history had made. They assumed that superior technology guaranteed victory. They had never faced a species that viewed hopeless odds as a challenge rather than a defeat. "Patch me through to all resistance cells," she ordered. "All frequencies, all networks." When the connection was established, Santos addressed the scattered survivors of New Geneva's population. This is Colonel Santos, speaking for the legitimate government of New Geneva. To all human personnel currently engaging hostile forces, you are hereby authorized to use any means necessary to resist the invasion. Any means. The transmission was brief, but its impact was immediate. Across the planet, human resistance took on a new character. Chemical plants began producing improvised explosives. Agricultural centers started weaponizing pesticides. Even children's toys were repurposed into surveillance devices and communication relays. The aliens had vastly superior technology, but humans had something they couldn't understand: the ability to turn anything into a weapon when survival was at stake. Admiral Harrison's fleet finally reached engagement range of the alien vessel. The hegemony ship hung in space above New Geneva like a malevolent god, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Energy beams continued to carve geometric sections out of the planet's surface with methodical precision. All ships, attack formation Gamma, Harrison commanded. Focus fire on the vessel's shield generators. Let's see how they handle coordinated human tactics. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, kinetic bombardment rounds. Every weapon in humanity's arsenal concentrated on the alien ship simultaneously. The alien vessel's shields flared as they absorbed the assault. But something unprecedented happened. For several seconds, the alien ship's weapons stopped firing. Its occupants were apparently surprised that more humans had arrived, and seemed to be analyzing this new development. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel," reported the communications officer. On speakers, the voice that filled the bridge was the same one that had spoken to Commander Chun, cold, confident, and utterly alien. Additional primitive vessels detected. This demonstrates the futility of resistance. Withdraw immediately or face termination. Harrison smiled grimly. "This is Admiral Rebecca Harrison of the United Earth Fleet. I have a message for you from the people of Earth. Communicate your surrender terms. The message is, we don't negotiate with genocidal aliens. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take them over our dead bodies." Acceptable. The alien ship's weapons began charging for a massive strike against the human fleet. Energy coursed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Harrison's tactical officers were shouting warnings about energy readings that exceeded their instrument's ability to measure. But the aliens had overlooked something crucial about human military doctrine. When facing superior enemies, humans cheated. "Dr. Park, this is Admiral Harrison," she broadcast on a secure channel. "Execute Excalibur Protocol. Authorization 7-7 Alpha." In the asteroid belt, Dr. Park's quantum entanglement array reached critical resonance. The alien ship's power core, which had been quantum mapped during its scan of the Prometheus, was now perfectly entangled with a carefully selected target. "Quantum entanglement established," Dr. Chong reported. "Target lock confirmed. Execute," Park ordered. What happened next would be debated by theoretical physicists for generations, assuming humanity survived to have theoretical physicists. The alien ship's power core, through quantum entanglement, was suddenly connected to the nuclear furnace at the heart of Sol, Earth's sun. For a brief moment, stellar fusion occurred inside the alien vessel. The explosion was visible from Earth. The hegemony ship, which had seemed invincible moments before, simply ceased to exist. In its place was an expanding sphere of plasma and exotic particles that painted the space around New Geneva in colors that had no names in any human language. Admiral Harrison stared at the view screen in stunned silence. Her fleet's weapons were still firing at empty space where the alien ship had been. "Cease fire," she ordered quietly. "All ships, cease fire." The aftermath was eerily quiet. New Geneva's scarred surface reflected the light of the alien ship's destruction, and, for the first time in days, no energy beams carved geometric shapes out of human settlements. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer. "Colonial Defense Command is requesting assistance with evacuation and medical support." "Granted. All ships, prepare for humanitarian aid operations." Harrison paused, staring at the space where humanity had just won its first victory against an alien invasion. and transmit a full battle report to Earth. Priority Omega. But even as the fleet moved to help the survivors of New Geneva, Harrison felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. The alien voice had mentioned something called the hegemony. That implied a larger organization, possibly an entire alien civilization dedicated to eliminating human expansion. This wasn't the end of the war. This was barely the beginning. On Earth, Secretary General Morrison received the battle report with mixed emotions. Humanity had won, but the cost had been enormous. New Geneva was devastated, with millions dead and an entire world's infrastructure destroyed. Worse, they had been forced to use their most dangerous experimental weapon to achieve victory. Analysis of the alien technology, he asked his science advisors. Preliminary reports suggest they are part of a larger civilization, replied Dr. Elizabeth Warren, head of the UN's Xenobiology Department. The ship's computer systems, what little survived the destruction, contained references to multiple species and hundreds of star systems under something called hegemony control. Morrison nodded grimly. Military assessment. General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was blunt. Sir, we got lucky. If Dr. Park's quantum entanglement theory hadn't worked, Admiral Harrison's fleet would have been destroyed, and we'd be facing an invasion of Earth within months. We need to assume this was a scout ship, and that more are coming. Recommendations? Total mobilization. Every resource, every scientist, every military asset focused on defending human space. And we need to start thinking about taking the fight to them. Morrison looked out the window of his office at the city of New York sprawling below. Somewhere in those streets were children playing, couples falling in love, artists creating beauty, and scientists pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. All of it was now threatened by aliens who viewed humanity as bacteria to be sterilized. Do it, he ordered. Full mobilization. Whatever resources you need, you have them. As General Hayes left to begin the largest military buildup in human history, Morrison activated his secure communication link to Admiral Harrison. Admiral, this is Morrison. Outstanding work out there. Thank you, sir. What are our next orders? Morrison looked at the reports flowing across his desk. Alien technology fragments being analyzed by teams of scientists, military commanders developing new tactical doctrines, engineers designing weapons that had existed only in theory until yesterday. Admiral, your next orders are simple. Find out where they came from. And then we're going to pay them a visit they'll never forget. The war for humanity's survival had officially begun. 6 months after the Battle of New Geneva, humanity had transformed itself into something the galaxy had never seen before, an entire species dedicated to war. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the most classified research facility in human space, deep beneath the surface of Luna. Around her, teams of scientists worked frantically to decode the fragments of alien technology recovered from the destroyed hegemony vessel. Every piece of exotic matter, every quantum circuit, every biological component was being studied with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Status report. She called to Dr. Marcus Webb, who was hunched over a console displaying alien neural patterns. We've made a breakthrough, Webb replied, his voice hoarse from days of continuous work. The aliens, they call themselves the Kythera, aren't just conquerors. There's something worse. Vasquez approached his workstation, where a three-dimensional model of Kythera neural pathways rotated slowly in holographic display. The patterns were beautiful in their complexity, but something about them made her skin crawl. Explain. They're farmers, Webb said grimly. Every species they encounter is categorized into one of 3 groups: useful slaves, dangerous threats, or raw material. Guess which category they put us in? Raw material, Vasquez whispered. Exactly. The Kythera don't just want to eliminate human expansion. They want to harvest our entire species for biological components. Our neural tissue, apparently, has properties they find particularly valuable for their organic technology. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of computers and the distant sound of construction. Throughout the solar system, humanity was building the largest military force in its history. Shipyards worked around the clock producing new vessels designed specifically for fighting alien technology. training academies graduated soldiers who learned to use weapons that had been theoretical 6 months ago. There's more, Webb continued. The Kythera ship's memory banks contain star charts. We know where they come from. Admiral Harrison, who had been quietly observing from the laboratory's entrance, stepped forward. Show me. Webb activated a galactic map that filled the room. Thousands of star systems glowed in various colors. Blue for human colonies, red for Kythera territory, and a sickening yellow for systems that had been harvested. The Kythera hegemony controls over 3,000 star systems, Webb explained. They've been expanding for approximately 50,000 Earth years, consuming every intelligent species they encounter. Based on the ship's historical records, they've harvested over 200 different civilizations. Harrison studied the map with the eye of a strategist. The Kythera territory formed a massive sphere of influence that dwarfed human space. But something about the pattern nagged at her. Dr. Webb, show me the temporal progression of their expansion. The map shifted, showing the Kythera territory growing over millennia. Harrison watched carefully as the alien empire spread across the galaxy like a cancer, consuming everything in its path. There, she said suddenly. Stop the progression at approximately 5,000 years ago. The map froze, showing the Kythera empire suddenly, contracting in several sectors. Entire regions that had been under their control were suddenly marked as contested or lost. What happened here? Harrison asked. Webb pulled up additional data. According to the records, the Kythera encountered something they classified as a Type 7 resistance event. Entire fleets were destroyed. Planets they had controlled for millennia suddenly went silent. The records are fragmentary, but it appears they encountered a species that fought back successfully. What happened to that species? Unknown. The records end abruptly, and that entire region of space is marked as quarantined in current Kythera charts. Harrison smiled grimly. So they could be beaten? Apparently. But, Admiral, there's something else you need to know. The Kythera ship that attacked New Geneva wasn't an invasion force. It was a scout. The blood drained from Harrison's face. Explain. Based on the ship's mission parameters, it was sent to assess human military capabilities and determine the threat level we represent. Now that it hasn't reported back, they know we're dangerous, Harrison finished. Webb nodded. According to standard Kythera protocol, failure to report by a scout vessel triggers an automatic response. They'll send a harvesting fleet, approximately 50 ships, each larger than the vessel we destroyed. When the fleet was dispatched 3 days after the New Geneva incident. Based on their technology and the distance involved, they'll arrive in human space within 2 weeks. Harrison felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders again. 50 ships, each capable of destroying planets, were heading toward Earth. Humanity had exactly 14 days to prepare for the real war. Give me a secure channel to Earth, she ordered. Priority Omega. And, Dr. Webb, I want everything you've learned about Kythera technology transmitted to every human military installation immediately. If we're going to fight 50 ships, we need every advantage we can get. On Earth, the news of the approaching hegemony fleet triggered the largest mobilization in human history. Secretary General Morrison stood before the United Nations Assembly, addressing not just Earth's representatives, but the leaders of every human colony in space. Fellow humans, he began, his voice carrying to every corner of human civilization through quantum communication arrays. 6 months ago, we learned we were not alone in the universe. Today, we learned that our new neighbors want to exterminate us. The assembly hall was silent as Morrison continued. In 14 days, 50 alien warships will enter our space with the intent of harvesting our species for biological components. They have done this to over 200 other civilizations. They believe they will do it to us. Morrison paused, looking directly into the cameras that carried his words to every human settlement in the galaxy. They are wrong. The response was immediate. Throughout human space, every resource was redirected toward the war effort. Civilian factories retooled to produce military hardware. Scientists abandoned peaceful research to develop weapons. Even children contributed, with schools becoming training centers for the technical specialists the military desperately needed. But the most significant change was philosophical. Humanity had spent centuries learning to be civilized, to resolve conflicts through diplomacy and compromise. In 14 days, that civilization would have to remember how to be predators. Admiral Harrison returned to her flagship with a new mission: take the fight to the enemy before they could reach human colonies. Intelligence suggested that the Kythera fleet would approach through the Vega system, a strategic choke point that controlled access to the core human worlds. Admiral, incoming transmission from Dr. Park, reported her communications officer. Harrison activated the secure channel. Dr. Park's face appeared on the screen, but he looked different, younger, more energetic. The success of Project Excalibur had transformed him from a theoretical physicist into humanity's most dangerous weapon designer. "Admiral, I have something for you," Park said. "We've been analyzing the quantum signatures from the destroyed Kythera vessel, and I believe we can replicate their technology." "Explain." "The Kythera use biological components in their ships, living tissue integrated with exotic matter to create a kind of organic technology. We can't replicate the biological aspects, but we can mimic their quantum field manipulation." Park's image was replaced by technical schematics showing a new type of human warship. The design was unlike anything in the current fleet, sleeker, more aggressive, with weapon systems that seemed to flow along the hull like living veins. "We call them Reaper-class destroyers. They use quantum field manipulation to phase in and out of normal space-time, making them nearly impossible to target. The main weapon is a scaled-up version of the Excalibur array. It can quantum entangle with enemy ships and transmit stellar-grade fusion directly to their power cores." Harrison studied the specifications with growing excitement. The Reaper-class ships were faster, more maneuverable, and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. More importantly, they were designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses discovered in Kythera technology. "How many can you build in 2 weeks?" she asked. "Working around the clock, with every shipyard in the solar system? Maybe 12. "Do it. And, Dr. Park, I want you to personally oversee the installation of the quantum entanglement arrays. If we're going to face 50 ships, we need every advantage we can get." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Throughout human space, the greatest minds of the species worked together on a single goal: survival. Engineers pushed the boundaries of what was physically possible. Scientists developed weapons that violated several laws of physics. Military strategists planned battles against technology they barely understood. Most importantly, ordinary humans began to change. The news that alien harvesters were coming to claim them as raw material triggered something primal in human psychology. The same instinct that had allowed their ancestors to hunt megafauna and conquer a planet began to surface. Humanity was remembering how to be dangerous. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the UES Defiance, as her fleet assembled in the Vega system. Around her, the largest military force in human history prepared for battle. 300 ships of every class, from massive battlecruisers to the sleek new Reaper destroyers, formed a defensive line across the system's primary transit routes. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational anomalies," reported Commander Torres. "The Kythera fleet is approaching. All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. Today we face an enemy that has conquered 200 civilizations. They believe they understand warfare. They believe they understand killing. They believe they understand humans." Harrison paused, watching as 50 massive shapes began to materialize at the edge of sensor range. Each Kythera vessel was larger than anything in the human fleet, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. They're about to learn they were wrong about all three. The Kythera fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships arranged in geometric patterns that suggested confidence and overwhelming superiority. They had done this before, arrived at the home systems of resistant species, demonstrated their power, and begun the harvesting process. They were expecting surrender or futile resistance from primitive technology. What they got was Admiral Harrison's voice broadcasting across all frequencies. "Kythera fleet, this is the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw or we will demonstrate why humanity conquered every predator on its home world." The response came in the same cold, alien voice that had spoken to Commander Chen months ago. "Primitive species, your resistance is futile. Prepare for harvesting. Your biological components will serve the hegemony." "Counteroffer," Harrison replied. "Come and take them." The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The Battle of Vega began at exactly 1427 Earth Standard Time, when 50 Kythera vessels opened fire simultaneously on Admiral Harrison's defensive line. The alien weapons were beyond anything humans had previously imagined. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as dissolution beams carved perfect geometric shapes through space-time. Admiral Harrison watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as her fleet absorbed the initial assault. Ships simply ceased to exist where the alien beams touched them. Their matter converted directly to energy in patterns that violated several fundamental laws of physics. "Damage report," she barked over the alarms. "Forward line has lost 18 ships," reported Commander Torres, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "The Edinburgh, the Mumbai, and the Sao Paulo have been completely destroyed. No survivors." Harrison gritted her teeth. 18 ships and their crews, over 9,000 trained personnel, eliminated in the opening seconds of battle. But the sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Every destroyed ship had transmitted detailed scans of the Kythera weapons to the fleet's tactical computers. "Initiate Protocol Omega," she ordered. "All Reaper-class vessels phase shift and attack." Throughout the fleet, 12 sleek destroyers suddenly became translucent, their quantum field generators allowing them to exist partially outside normal space-time. To the Kythera sensors, the ships simply vanished. The alien fleet's response was immediate and coordinated. Energy patterns cascaded along their organic hulls as they attempted to locate the missing human vessels. For the Kythera, this was unprecedented. No species they had encountered possessed quantum manipulation technology. What they didn't realize was that humans had learned from the best teacher possible, their own destroyed ship. Captain Maria Santos, recently promoted and given command of the Reaper-class destroyer UES Retribution, watched the Kythera fleet through her ship's quantum sensors. The alien vessels were magnificent in their alien beauty, but she felt no appreciation for their aesthetics. These were the beings that had murdered her 12 million colonists on New Geneva. "Target acquired," reported her weapons officer, Lieutenant Park, Dr. Park's son, who had volunteered for combat duty despite his father's protests. Quantum entanglement lock established on the lead Kythera vessel. "Fire," Santos ordered. The Excalibur array built into the Retribution's hull activated, creating a quantum tunnel between the alien ship's power core and a carefully prepared target, a containment field holding 3 kilograms of antimatter. The lead Kythera vessel experienced matter-antimatter annihilation directly inside its primary power systems. The explosion was visible from Earth. But instead of celebrating, Santos was already calling for the next target. "Lock on a Vessel 2. Fire when ready." The second Kythera ship died before its crew could understand what had happened to the first. Then the third. Then the fourth. Throughout the battle zone, 11 other Reaper destroyers were conducting identical attacks. The Kythera fleet, which had been expecting to crush primitive human resistance, was suddenly losing ships faster than they could respond. But the aliens adapted quickly. After losing 8 vessels in as many minutes, the surviving Kythera ships began implementing countermeasures. Their organic hulls shifted, developing new sensor arrays designed to detect quantum disturbances. "Captain, they're adapting to our stealth technology," reported Lieutenant Park. "Quantum phase variance is becoming unstable." Santos nodded grimly. The Reaper-class ships had been humanity's trump card, but, like all trump cards, they only worked once. "All ships, this is Captain Santos. Phase shift is compromised. Return to normal space and implement close-quarters combat protocols." The Reaper destroyers materialized throughout the Kythera formation, their sleek hulls now visible to alien sensors. But instead of retreating, they did something that stunned the Kythera commanders. They accelerated toward the alien ships, weapons firing continuously. To the Kythera, this was incomprehensible. Every species they had encountered fought defensively when faced with superior technology. None had ever deliberately closed to close combat range when they could have maintained distance. They were about to learn something fundamental about human psychology. When humans were losing, they became more dangerous, not less. Captain Santos's ship screamed toward a Kythera vessel at near-relativistic speeds, her quantum torpedoes carving chunks from the alien ship's organic hull. The return fire was devastating. Dissolution beams that should have destroyed her ship completely were only partially effective because of the Retribution's speed and erratic movement patterns. Ramming speed, Santos ordered. All hands, prepare for impact. Captain, the quantum entanglement array is still operational, Lieutenant Park reported. I can target their power core directly. Negative. Save the antimatter for their fleet command ship. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten human families. The Retribution struck the Kythera vessel's hull at nearly 10% the speed of light. The impact released energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, but Santos had positioned her ship perfectly. The collision occurred directly adjacent to the alien vessel's primary weapons array. Both ships died in the explosion, but the Kythera lost their most advanced ship-killer weapons while the humans lost only one destroyer. Admiral Harrison watched Captain Santos's sacrifice with a mixture of grief and pride. The woman had been a brilliant officer and a friend, but her tactical brilliance had just eliminated one of the most dangerous vessels in the Kythera fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. Captain Santos has shown us the way. Close to engagement range, and fight them ship to ship. They have superior technology, but we have something they don't understand. What's that, ma'am? Asked Commander Torres. Harrison smiled grimly as she watched her fleet begin a full assault against the larger alien force. We have nothing left to lose. The battle evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The Kythera, accustomed to fighting defensive species that tried to avoid engagement, found themselves facing humans who actively sought close combat. Every destroyed human ship rammed into alien vessels before dying. Every damaged human ship used its destruction as a weapon. Most importantly, the humans were learning. Dr. Elizabeth Warren watched the battle from the command center deep beneath Luna's surface. Around her, teams of analysts studied every second of combat data, looking for patterns and weaknesses in Kythera technology. There, she said suddenly, pointing to a section of tactical data. Replay that sequence. The holographic display showed a Kythera ship's hull regenerating after weapon damage. The organic material flowed like liquid metal, repairing breaches and restoring functionality within seconds. The hull regeneration follows a specific pattern, Warren observed. It's not random, it's programmed, which means it can be disrupted. She turned to her team of xenobiologists. I need a quantum analysis of that regeneration pattern. If we can identify the underlying biological processes, we can develop a counteragent. Dr. Chong looked up from her console. Ma'am, we need a sample of the hull material to develop any kind of biological weapon. Then, we'll get one, Warren replied, activating her communication link to the fleet. Admiral Harrison, this is Dr. Warren. I need someone to capture a piece of Kythera hull material. Intact biological samples are essential for developing new weapons. Harrison's voice crackled over the comm link. Dr. Warren, in case you haven't noticed, we're in the middle of a battle for survival. How exactly do you propose we capture samples from ships that disintegrate matter? The hull material regenerates, Admiral. That means it's partially alive. Living tissue can be stunned, paralyzed, or anesthetized. We need someone to get close enough to a Kythera ship to deploy a biological agent against their hull. The communication was silent for several seconds. Then, Harrison's voice returned, carrying a note of grim amusement. Dr. Warren, I think I know just the person for that job. Commander Rebecca Kim was piloting one of the few remaining Reaper-class destroyers when she received Admiral Harrison's order. Her mission was simple in concept, but nearly impossible in execution. Get close enough to a Kythera vessel to deploy an experimental biological weapon against its hull, then escape with samples of the affected material. No pressure, she muttered to her crew as they approached their target, a medium-sized Kythera ship that was systematically destroying human frigates with its dissolution weapons. "Commander, the biological agent is loaded and ready," reported her science officer. Dr. Warren's team synthesized it based on analysis of human immune system responses. Theoretical effectiveness against alien biology is unknown. "Theoretical effectiveness is better than no effectiveness," Kim replied. "Take us in." The UES Phantom approached the Kythera vessel using every stealth technique human engineers had developed. Quantum phase shifting made them partially invisible to most sensors, but the aliens had adapted their detection systems throughout the battle. Kim was counting on human unpredictability to carry them through. Instead of approaching from the obvious angles, behind or below the alien ship, she took the Phantom directly toward the Kythera vessel's main weapons array. It was the most dangerous approach possible, which made it the last thing the aliens would expect. "Deploy biological agent," Kim ordered when they reached optimal range. A cloud of microscopic nanobots erupted from the Phantom's forward launchers. Each robot was designed to attach to organic material and inject a cocktail of Earth-derived toxins and immune system responses. The effect on the Kythera hull was immediate and dramatic. The organic material began convulsing, its smooth regenerative patterns replaced by chaotic spasms. Sections of the hull lost their bioluminescent glow and began turning gray and brittle. "It's working," breathed the science officer. "The alien biology is having an allergic reaction to Earth proteins. Collect samples and get us out of here," Kim ordered, "before they figure out what we did." The Phantom's sample collection arms extended, gathering chunks of the damaged Kythera hull material before the ship's quantum drives engaged. They disappeared into phase space just as the alien vessel's weapons swiveled toward their position. Within minutes, the samples were being transmitted via quantum link to Dr. Warren's laboratory on Luna. The battle was still raging when Dr. Warren's team made their breakthrough. The Kythera biological technology was incredibly advanced, but it had a critical vulnerability. It had never been exposed to Earth-based pathogens. "It's like the immune system response when Europeans brought diseases to isolated populations," Warren explained to Secretary General Morrison via emergency communication. "The Kythera biology has no resistance to Earth proteins because it evolved in a completely different biosphere. Can you weaponize it?" Morrison asked bluntly. "We already have. I need authorization to deploy biological weapons against the alien fleet." Morrison was silent for several seconds. The use of biological weapons had been banned by human civilization for over a century. But faced with extinction, those moral constraints seemed less important than survival. "Authorized," he said finally. "Do whatever is necessary." Dr. Warren's team worked with desperate efficiency. Within hours, they had developed a biological weapon specifically designed to target Kythera technology. The weapon wasn't designed to kill. It was designed to make their ships sick. Admiral Harrison received the new weapon specifications just as her fleet was being pushed back toward Earth's outer defenses. She had lost over half her ships, and the remaining Kythera vessels were advancing steadily toward the inner system. "All remaining ships, this is Admiral Harrison. We're implementing Dr. Warren's biological weapon immediately. Every ship is to load biotorpedoes and prepare for coordinated strike." The human fleet's final assault began with the launch of 300 biological torpedoes simultaneously. Each weapon carried millions of Earth-derived pathogens designed to cause immune system failures in Kythera biological technology. When the torpedoes reached their targets, the effect was beyond anything the humans had dared hope for. The Kythera ships began dying. Not exploding or dissolving, dying. Their organic hulls developed what could only be described as infections. Bioluminescent patterns flickered and faded. Weapon systems shut down as the biological components suffered systemic failures. Within minutes, the most advanced alien fleet in the galaxy had been reduced to floating hulks, their crews dying inside ships that could no longer support life. Admiral Harrison stared at the tactical display in amazement. 42 Kythera vessels hung motionless in space, their organic technology poisoned by Earth bacteria. "Ma'am, we're receiving communications from the alien ships," reported Commander Torres, his voice filled with disbelief. Put them through. The voice that filled the bridge was different from the cold confidence they had heard before. It was weak, confused, and for the first time afraid. Human ships, what have you done to us? Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, surrounded by the floating hulks of 42 Kythera vessels. Each alien ship drifted helplessly in space, their organic hulls covered with what could only be described as massive infections. The bioluminescent patterns that had once pulsed with alien life were now dim and irregular, like the dying heartbeat of a wounded animal. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Kythera Fleet Command Vessel, reported Commander Torres. Audio only. Their visual systems appear to have failed. Put them through. The voice that filled the bridge was barely recognizable as the same entity that had threatened to harvest humanity. Where once there had been cold confidence, now there was pain and confusion. Human Commander, we require assistance. Our biological systems are failing. We do not understand this weapon. Harrison exchanged glances with her senior officers. 6 months ago, humanity's first contact with alien intelligence had been a death threat. Now, those same aliens were asking for help. This is Admiral Rebecca Harrison of the United Earth Defense Force. Identify yourself. I was Fleet Commander Zenth of the Kythera Hegemony Harvesting Division. My ship is dying. My crew is dying. What have you done to us? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Harrison found herself in a position no human had ever occupied before, holding the life of an alien fleet in her hands. Dr. Warren, are you monitoring this? She asked on a secure channel. Yes, Admiral. The biological weapon is working exactly as designed. The Kythera ship's organic components are experiencing massive immune system failures. Their technology is essentially having an allergic reaction to Earth proteins. Casualties? Unknown. The weapon was designed to target their technology, not their biology directly. But if their ships are truly organic, the distinction might not matter. Harrison made a decision that would reshape galactic history. Fleet Commander Zenth, this is Admiral Harrison. We are prepared to discuss terms. Terms? The alien voice carried a note of confusion. Your fleet attacked human space with the intent to harvest our species for biological components. You threatened the extinction of our civilization. However, we are not you. We don't practice genocide. Harrison activated her ship's external communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies. All human vessels, this is Admiral Harrison. Cease all hostile actions against Kythera ships. Implement humanitarian protocols immediately. Throughout the fleet, human ships that had been prepared for a final desperate battle suddenly shifted to rescue operations. Medical shuttles launched toward the disabled alien vessels, carrying doctors and scientists who had volunteered to attempt first contact under the most extraordinary circumstances imaginable. Dr. Elena Vasquez was aboard the first shuttle to dock with a Kythera ship. She had spent months studying alien technology fragments, but nothing had prepared her for stepping inside a living starship. The corridors pulsed with a faint bioluminescent glow, but the patterns were erratic and failing. The walls themselves seemed to be breathing, but the rhythm was labored and irregular. Most disturbing of all, the ship felt alive but dying. Incredible, whispered Dr. Marcus Webb, who was accompanying the first contact team. The entire ship is one massive organism. The technology isn't built, it's grown. They found the Kythera crew in what might have been the ship's bridge, though it resembled the inside of a vast organism more than any human command center. The aliens themselves were unlike anything humans had imagined. The Kythera were tall, elegant beings with crystalline skin that refracted light in complex patterns. Their bodies seemed to be partially organic and partially technological, with biomechanical implants that pulsed in rhythm with the ship around them. But now, those same implants were failing, their light dimming as the ship's systems shut down. Fleet Commander Zenth was the largest of the aliens, his crystalline skin crackling with failing energy patterns. When he spoke, the words formed directly in the humans' minds rather than being transmitted through sound. You came to help us, he said, his mental voice filled with confusion. This is not standard protocol. Inferior species do not aid their superiors. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her medical scanner detecting alien biology that defied classification. We're here to provide medical assistance and to establish communication. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. What do you need? Need? Xantha's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. We require biological stabilization. Our ship symbiont is dying from exposure to your weapon. Without the ship, we cannot survive. Webb was scanning the ship's walls with his instruments, his expression growing more amazed by the moment. Dr. Vasquez, the ship isn't just alive, it's directly connected to their nervous systems. They don't pilot the ship so much as they are the ship. The implications were staggering. Humanity had essentially given an entire alien fleet a terminal illness. Can you treat it? Vasquez asked. Maybe. The immune response was triggered by exposure to Earth proteins. If we can neutralize those proteins and provide immune system support. Dr. Vasquez activated her communication link to Admiral Harrison. Admiral, this is the first contact team. We have a situation here. Report, Doctor. The Kythera aren't just using biological technology. They are biological technology. The ships are living organisms, and the crew are symbiotically connected to them. Our biological weapon didn't just damage their ships. We essentially poisoned their entire civilization. Harrison's voice was grim. Can you help them? We think so. But, Admiral, there's something else. The Kythera aren't the masterminds behind their empire. They're slaves. The revelation sent shockwaves through the human fleet. Fleet Commander Xanth, his crystalline skin now noticeably dimmer, confirmed what the medical scans had suggested. The Masters created us to serve, he explained, his mental voice growing weaker. We were designed to expand their territory and harvest biological material. We have no choice in our actions. Who are the Masters? Dr. Vasquez asked. Ancient beings. They sleep in the galactic core, dreaming of dominion. We serve their dreams. Webb exchanged glances with Vasquez. Admiral, the Kythera are victims, not villains. They're a created species, designed to be the perfect soldiers for beings that may not even be awake. Admiral Harrison found herself facing the most complex first contact scenario in human history. The aliens who had threatened to harvest humanity were themselves being harvested by something far worse. Dr. Vasquez, begin medical treatment immediately. Save as many as you can. Admiral, treating them might be seen as treason by some of our forces. These beings did try to exterminate us. Dr. Vasquez, if we let them die when we could save them, we become the monsters they thought we were. Begin treatment. The next several days witnessed the most extraordinary medical effort in galactic history. Human doctors worked alongside dying Kythera to develop treatments for a form of life that shouldn't have been possible. The biological weapon that had saved humanity was gradually neutralized, allowing the alien ship's immune systems to begin recovery. But the process revealed something that changed everything. Admiral, you need to see this, Dr. Warren called from her laboratory aboard the Defiance. We've been analyzing the Kythera biological systems, and we've discovered something incredible. Harrison joined Warren in the medical bay, where a Kythera crew member named SYTH was recovering from the biological weapon's effects. The alien's crystalline skin was beginning to regain its luminescence, but something fundamental had changed. Tell the Admiral what you told me, Warren said to SYTH. The alien's mental voice was different now, less mechanical, more individual. The connection, it is broken. For the first time since my creation, I cannot hear the Master's dreams. Warren explained the implications. Admiral, the biological weapon didn't just attack their immune systems. It severed the psychic connection that linked the Kythera to their creators. They're free. Free to do what? Free to choose, SYDH answered. For 50,000 years, we have served without question. We have harvested civilizations because we had no choice. Now we can choose. Fleet Commander Xanth, who had recovered enough to communicate clearly, provided the strategic information that changed the course of galactic history. The Masters number in the millions, he explained to Admiral Harrison and her senior staff. They sleep in vast cities orbiting the galactic core, dreaming of conquest. Every 50,000 years, They create new servant species to expand their territory. We are the latest, but not the last. How many servant species are active? Admiral Harrison asked. 7. The Kythera, the Vorthak, the Essence Devourers, the Machine Collective, the Psionic Dominion, the Voidstalkers, and the newest creation, the Flesh Weavers. Each controls thousands of star systems in different galactic sectors. Admiral Harrison studied the star charts that Zenth provided. The galaxy wasn't just inhabited by multiple civilizations. It was carved up into massive territories controlled by ancient beings who treated entire species as disposable tools. What happens when a masters wake up? She asked. They evaluate the success of their servants. Those who have failed to expand sufficiently are recycled. Their biological material is used to create new servant species. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just encountered one hostile alien civilization. They had stumbled into a galactic war that had been raging for millions of years. Secretary General Morrison received the full report via quantum transmission to Earth. The revelation that the galaxy was controlled by sleeping gods who created slave species to fight their wars for them changed everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the universe. Recommendations? He asked his senior advisors during an emergency session. General Hayes was blunt. Sir, we have two choices. We can hide in our corner of the galaxy and hope the other servant species don't find us, or we can do something that's never been done before, which is, we can try to free them all. Dr. Warren, participating via hologram from the fleet, outlined the possibilities. Sir, the biological weapon that freed the Kythera can be modified to work against the other servant species. Each one was created using different biological principles, but they all share the same fundamental weakness. They're controlled through biological connections to their masters. You're proposing we declare war on the rulers of the galaxy, Morrison said slowly. Admiral Harrison's voice came through the quantum link from the Vega system. Mr. Secretary General, with respect, they declared war on us first. The only question is whether we fight to survive or fight to win. Morrison looked around the crisis center at the faces of humanity's leaders. 6 months ago, they had been managing the peaceful expansion of human civilization. Now, they were contemplating the liberation of an entire galaxy. Admiral Harrison, what's the status of our new allies? The Kythera fleet is recovering. Fleet Commander Zenth has provided us with complete intelligence on hegemony technology and tactics. More importantly, he's offered to help us contact the other servant species. To what end? To offer them the same choice we offered as people, freedom. Morrison made the decision that would define humanity's role in galactic history. Do it. Contact the other servant species. Offer them freedom from their masters. And if they refuse? Admiral Harrison asked. Morrison's voice carried the weight of an entire species' determination. Then, we'll free them anyway. Humanity spent millennia fighting tyrants on our own world. It's time we taught the galaxy what we learned. The war for galactic liberation had officially begun. And at its heart was a simple human principle that the Masters had never encountered in 50 million years of galactic domination. No one deserved to be a slave. Fleet Commander Zenth, his crystalline skin now pulsing with independent light patterns, stood beside Admiral Harrison on the bridge of the Defiance as they prepared to depart for the first contact mission. Admiral, I must warn you, the other servant species will not be as easily freed as my people. Some have served the Masters for hundreds of thousands of years. They may view freedom as a form of madness. Harrison smiled grimly. Commander Zenth, you're about to learn something important about humans. We specialize in spreading madness. As the combined human Kythera fleet prepared to depart for the Vorthak territories, a message was transmitted to every human settlement in the galaxy. It was simple, direct, and carried the signature of humanity's greatest strength. This is Admiral Rebecca Harrison of the United Earth Defense Force. To all human personnel, military and civilian, we have learned that the galaxy is controlled by beings who view intelligent life as nothing more than tools to be used and discarded. They have enslaved entire civilizations for millions of years. They made one mistake. They threatened humanity. Today we begin the largest military operation in galactic history. We're going to free every enslaved species we can find. We're going to destroy every tyrant who claims ownership of intelligent beings. And we're going to teach this galaxy that some things are worth fighting for. Freedom isn't negotiable. Justice isn't optional. And tyranny, no matter how ancient or powerful, has never faced anything quite like humanity. The Masters wanted to harvest us for biological components. Instead, they're about to discover what happens when you give humans a righteous cause and the weapons to fight for it. Let's go free a galaxy. The response from across human space was immediate and universal. Every ship, every colony, every human settlement in the galaxy began preparing for the greatest war in galactic history. The Masters, sleeping in their ancient cities around the galactic core, remained unaware that their 50-million-year dominion was about to end. They had overlooked something crucial about the species they had tried to harvest. Humans had conquered their home world by being more dangerous than everything that tried to kill them. The galaxy was about to learn why.